Visa applicants from the 10 as yet unknown countries will be fingerprinted and have their faces scanned before they're allowed to enter Australia. There's a long list of contenders.
Good evening. Australia's terrorism threat level hasn't moved in 9 years, but the Prime Minister has warned the risks are rising and will stay forever. Kevin Rudd today released his long-delayed terrorism white paper. It says homegrown terrorists are a real and constant danger to national security. But security analysts have struggled to find any evidence of new threats in the report, and the opposition says the government's simply trying to distract attention from its botched home insulation scheme. From Canberra, Dana Robertson reports.
It's months overdue, but for a government in the firing line, the timing is perfect.
Terrorism continues to pose a serious threat, a serious challenge to Australia's security interests. That threat is not diminishing.
In fact, the white paper concludes the threat of terrorism on Australian soil is now permanent, and it's coming from within.
Homegrown terrorism is now a reality in Australia that we have to accept.
But experts say that's nothing new. The last terrorist plot by a foreigner was foiled 7 years ago.
Ever since then, all of the cases we've had have been homegrown, so it's been a long-standing problem.
Nonetheless, it's the overseas threat that's getting the money. The white paper commits almost $70 million to tighten entry from countries thought to harbour terrorists. Visa applicants from the 10 as yet unknown countries will be fingerprinted and have their faces scanned before they're allowed to enter Australia. There's a long list of contenders.
Somalia, Yemen, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Bangladesh, possibly Indonesia.
I think the Australian people, frankly, are entitled to know what those countries are.
At least two of the possible inclusions on the watch list, India and Indonesia, pose not just a security challenge, but a diplomatic one as well. Relations with their governments are stretched to the limit, and one embassy has told the ABC that its citizens are already routinely denied entry to Australia. The government admits it'll require finesse.
There may well be a diplomatic effort required in respect of some of those countries.
Australia's terrorism threat level remains at medium. It's unchanged since 2001. Dana Robertson, ABC News, Canberra.
The Prime Minister has warned the threat of homegrown terrorism is on the rise while launching the government's terrorism white paper. Political reporter Jodie Spears joins us now from Canberra. Jodie, good afternoon. Now, these threats appear to have changed.
They have, Sam. As Kevin Rudd says, the terror threat is no longer something that just travels here from overseas. It's something that's just as likely to come from someone who was born, raised and educated here in Australia. This was illustrated, of course, by the London bombings, and experts say that it applies here now as well. But the government still seems to be focusing its anti-terror measures on foreigners, announcing that it will spend $69 million on new biometric checks for people that are wanting to come here from 10 countries, which are considered to be high risk. The government won't say yet which countries they are. Those people will be fingerprinted and photographed, and their information then cross-checked with international terror watch lists. There are also plans for a new counter-terrorism centre to help coordinate information from all the different agencies. But Kevin Rudd admits that it's still impossible to say when a terror attack might happen, and it could happen at any time.
No government can guarantee that Australia will be free from the threat of terrorism, but the government can guarantee that we will take all necessary and practical measures to combat that threat.
Jodie, there's been some argy-bargy over the timing of this report.
There has, Sam. It was actually meant to come out late last year. Instead, it's come out today at a time when the government is facing increasing pressure over its bungled home insulation program. The opposition says that the Prime Minister is simply trying to take the focus off that issue.
The greatest threat to the safety of many Australian families over the last 12 months has been the home insulation program and Peter Garrett's mismanagement of it.
Another example of how those opposite talk first and think later.
The government insists that the terror threat is real and it is increasing, and it insists that this was the most appropriate time to release the report. Sam?
OK, thanks, Jodie. Jodie Spears there in Canberra.